Right, one of the things that I really love about precision engineering and having a lathe and the ability to use it is the fact that you can actually make loads of different tools for the workshop, but you can also use it to modify and upgrade your hobby things like I do. I have a keen interest in survival equipment, and the other day I was out and about with my hiking stick, and I thought, wouldn't it be a good idea if I could incorporate a fire starter in it? And one of the things that I really like doing is actually personalising my equipment, and the other day you may have seen my video where I've added this brass skull to the front of my hiking stick. And I did that because I have a fascination for skulls, you may have noticed that already, and I wanted to actually personalise this hiking stick. And then after a few days, after fitting this one, this is a split bracket that's held on here with one screw, and I'll show you how to actually make these very easily at some point. I made the adapter here to hold the skull. I didn't buy the skull, I had that in my store of brass items. So like I say, I fitted the skull, and then I put the hiking stick down for a few days and thought about it, and then come up with the idea of actually incorporating a ferrous rod within the skull. What I did was put a 1/8 BSP thread right the way through this aluminium block, so that the skull assembly is screwed halfway into that, and then I made this adapter up here out of a piece of hexagon brass with a 1/8 BSP male thread on that one, and that screws into the other half with the Doughty seal there. I use a Doughty seal because I want the actual part, or the actual holder here, to be fully waterproof. I often go through rivers and things, and using a hiking stick is a great method of actually having stability in the river on the slippery rocks or whatever. Plus they're great for actually testing the depth. So then I made up the adapter here, or the end here, which would hold the ferrous rod. That's a 3/8 BSP thread, and quite a thin ferrous rod there, but all the same it's very good. And again, I've personalised the handle here with this red cord and a wooden bead, and that there is a bought ferrous rod striker, which you can actually get on eBay. And that's how I actually have come to actually making things in the workshop now. I never use drawings or plans or anything like that. I just make the things up as I go along. I find it much more fun. And when I come to a certain point when I'm making things, like I had this one here with just the skull on the top of the bracket here, like I say, put it away for a few days, and then started to think about this idea. And that is a great thing to actually do if you're making stuff and you come to a point where you're not sure what you're going to do next. Just put the item aside and think about it for a few days. I find that most of my ideas come to me in the night. Around 3 o'clock in the morning I generally wake up, and I start thinking about things, and then all of a sudden I get loads of different ideas which I can actually incorporate into my work. So this is the actual fire starter. Again, on here I have an O-ring which goes into a slight recess on the bottom of this adapter here to make it completely waterproof. And when you get new ferrous rods, you have to break them in a bit. You have to scrape the black off first before they actually work. And you can get many different types and sizes of these ferrous rods on eBay or on Banggood or whatever. So they're a great little thing to actually make up if you're into survival equipment or camping or whatever. And this is what the original walking stick or hiking stick looked like before I cleaned off the paint. Like I say, the paint was bubbling up a bit on the lower half here anyway, so I thought, well, I'll get rid of that, shine it up. I would like to actually anodise it if I could at some point. And then I took off the actual adjustment parts here and remade those up out of brass. And I think that looks really excellent. And I'm actually very pleased with the results. So that's what it looks like close up and all round. And I'm really pleased with it because now this hiking stick is a unique item, personalised for my own use. And that's what the ferrule parts look like on the shaft. Nicely polished up, and they're quite thick, a bit bulkier or bigger than the actual plastic ones which were originally on the hiking stick. And then I used red paracord on here, which I got off of eBay. And I've taken them off at the moment, but what I do at the back here, I use my labelling machine and I put my mobile telephone number and my home phone number, just in case I ever leave this behind anywhere. I'd hope that someone would return it. But it's also good to have details like that on a hiking stick, just in case you have an accident out in the wild and someone finds you. And the weight is obviously increased on this hiking stick, but I'm not worried about that because to me it has two different uses. Not only is it great for a fire starter, but if you were attacked by a vicious animal or a person or whatever, this would be a very good self-defense weapon. And the great thing is, it's not illegal to carry. And in making these components on the lathe, there's quite a bit of boring work with small boring bars, and I'd just like to say that this is an excellent set here if you need any. I got these off of Banggood. I've got a 3/8 set and a 5/8 set. They do need regrinding when you get them because they're just brazed on and they're not actually ready for machining. People think you can actually just buy these straight and use them straight on the machine without any grinding relief or whatever, but you must grind them up, and I do actually show how to do that. I've made a special tool here to actually hold them so that I can actually grind them on the bench grinder and they don't get hot, or you can actually hold this handle and you won't actually feel the heat of the tool, and it's much easier to actually hold the tools in this one to get all the angles and the radius or whatever right. And I'll put a link below for both these sets of boring bars, and like I say, in an upcoming video I'll show how to actually grind these up and put the necessary relief on the angles or the actual proper grinding to make them absolutely excellent for use on the lathe.